Welcome back to BookLeesh, your go-to place for powerful book reviews and life-changing insights. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most inspiring and brutal journeys of mental toughness, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Get ready to discover how a man transformed his life through relentless discipline, unstoppable grit, and a mindset that refuses to quit. If you're ready to push your limits and unlock your true potential, you're in the right place. Let's jump right in. You think you've been through pain? You think you've suffered? Let me tell you a story about a man who took pain and turned it into power. Not just once, not just twice, but every single day of his life. He wasn't born with privilege. He wasn't gifted with talent. And he sure as hell wasn't expected to survive. He was born broken, abused, bullied, called stupid, the kind of child society often overlooks. But pain has a strange way of creating either monsters or warriors. David Goggins chose to become the latter. Not because he wanted to, but because life gave him no other option. But the question is, how far can a man really go on willpower alone? That's where his journey begins. There was a time when David was working as a pest exterminator. Yes, spraying cockroaches and rats in restaurants. Over 300 pounds, depressed, angry at the world, and completely lost. He'd look at the mirror and hate what he saw. Not because of the weight, but because of what he allowed himself to become. One day, he heard a voice on the television. A Navy SEAL speaking about Hell Week. About cold water, sleep deprivation, carrying boats, being broken down every minute of the day. And something clicked. Not inspiration, not motivation, rage, because he realized how far he had let himself fall. But he was 297 pounds, and the recruiter told him he needed to be 191 pounds to even try out. That's over 100 pounds. In 3 months. Most would laugh and walk away. But David Goggins doesn't do normal. He locked himself into a war with the person he hated the most, himself. He trained for hours, ran until his feet bled, sat in an ice bath until he passed out, ate almost nothing, screamed at himself in the mirror, cried, then screamed again. And still, he wasn't ready. He failed the ASVAB again and again and again until he passed. But that wasn't the end. He didn't just go through Navy SEAL Hell Week. He went through it 3 times. 3. Once with broken legs, taped up, running on pure will. He wasn't the fittest. He wasn't the fastest. But he was the last one standing. Because he knew something others didn't, that the mind is a weapon. People talk about motivation. Goggins talks about domination. Not of others, but of your own excuses. There's a moment during one of his ultramarathons where he runs over 100 miles in under 24 hours. No training, no preparation. He ran until his feet tore open, his kidneys started shutting down, and he defecated blood. But he kept going, because quitting would mean the voices in his head were right, and he couldn't let them win. But it's easy to glorify pain in stories. It's harder to live it when you're alone in a dark room, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, mind racing. He calls it the cookie jar, a place in your mind filled with all the victories of your life. Every time you feel like quitting, you reach into it, and you remember who the hell you are. Still think you're too tired to chase your dream? Too broken to heal? Too old? Too poor? Too late? Then you haven't met your real self yet. Because Goggins believes you've only tapped into 40% of your potential. The rest? It's buried under pain, excuses, lies, and fear. And to reach it, you've got to suffer. Not for the world, for yourself. Because nobody's coming to save you. Your mom's not coming. Your boss won't rescue you. Your friends can't do the work. It's on you. Every single day. And just when you think you've suffered enough, life will test you again. He went on to become a Navy SEAL, an Army Ranger, and an Air Force tactical air controller. He didn't just survive, He became one of the most elite soldiers in the world. And still, he kept pushing. Why? Because he found comfort in discomfort. He realized the greatest prison is the one we build in our minds. And the key is to run straight into hell and come out reborn. So, what's your excuse again? Part 2. You'd think after all that, he'd slow down. But slowing down was never an option, because every day he woke up, the war began again. He wasn't fighting the world. He wasn't fighting his past. He was fighting the voice inside that said, "You're done. You've done enough." But that voice is a liar. That voice wants comfort. That voice wants mediocrity. He called it the inner bitch. And every day, he had to shut it up. How? By choosing the hard path when the easy one was begging for attention. One morning, he woke up and couldn't move his legs. Numb, swollen, fused together in agony. Doctors told him he had holes in his heart, a rare birth defect. Another reason to stop. Another reason to sit. Another reason to quit. But he had one reason to keep going. Because he'd tasted what it meant to become the person no one thought he could be. And once you taste that, you can never go back. He had no interest in being the old David, the one who ran from pain, the one who needed others to save him, the one who let darkness win. So he ran again. And not just marathons, not just 100-milers. He ran until he couldn't see straight, until bones cracked, until tendons snapped. He embraced suffering so deeply that it became his strength. While others chased comfort, he hunted pain. Because pain was honest. Pain didn't lie. Pain revealed the truth. But don't get it twisted, it wasn't just physical. The worst pain he ever faced came in silence. In the memories. In the flashbacks of a father who beat him bloody. Of teachers who laughed at his reading. Of kids who mocked his stutter. Of nights hiding under a blanket, praying for it to stop. That kind of pain? It doesn't leave. It waits. And when you're alone, when the lights are off, it whispers, "You're still that kid." And that's when the real war starts. Not the run, not the swim, not the push-ups. The war inside your own head. He learned how to callous his mind. Just like hands grow hard from lifting, the brain grows hard from suffering. Not numb, not cold, hard like a warrior's armor. And the more he suffered, the less power fear had, the less grip doubt could take. But here's what most people get wrong. They think motivation is the key. It's not. Motivation is like a match, it burns bright, then it dies. Discipline? Discipline is the wildfire. It keeps burning long after everyone else goes home. He started waking up at 4 a.m. Not because it was trendy, but because demons don't sleep, and he wasn't going to let them win. He took ice baths every morning. He wrote down every insecurity on Post-it notes and stuck them on his mirror. Fat, dumb, useless, broken. Most people would hide those words. Goggins stared at them every day until they no longer had power. Because once you own your weakness, no one can use it against you. People started asking him, "Why put yourself through this? Why keep going when you've already achieved more than anyone else?" His answer? Because I'm not chasing a goal. I'm chasing who I'm supposed to become. Every finish line was just a checkpoint. Every medal was just metal. What mattered was the man in the mirror. And he still wasn't satisfied. He wasn't obsessed with winning. He was obsessed with becoming. And the truth is, so many people in this world have already given up. Not out loud, but inside. They stopped dreaming, stopped trying. They live quiet lives, full of buried pain and whispered regrets. David Goggins wasn't going to be one of them. So when he signed up for the Badwater 135, one of the toughest ultramarathons in the world, people thought he was crazy. 135 miles through Death Valley in 120-degree heat, running on asphalt so hot it melts shoes. He didn't just survive it. He finished in the top 5 with fractured feet, with broken spirit, with nothing left but the voice that screamed, "You don't stop when you're tired. You stop when you're done." But it's not about running. It never was. It's about realizing that every limit you think you have, every voice that tells you you're not enough, is lying. And you? You have so much more inside you. More than you've ever dared to believe. And if you're willing to suffer, if you're willing to bleed, if you're willing to walk into the fire with no guarantee of success, you will become someone that not even your past recognizes. And that's when you finally become free. Part 3. You'd think it would get easier. That after conquering ultramarathons, military schools, heart defects, and childhood trauma, he'd finally find peace. But peace doesn't visit warriors like David Goggins. Not easily. Because when you've lived in chaos your whole life, silence can feel like a threat. He wasn't just running from pain, he was running toward the edge, to the place where most people break. And he wanted to find it. He had to find it. Because somewhere deep down, he believed that only by facing the darkest part of yourself can you finally become whole. There's a story he tells. One day, his body shut down mid-run. Not figuratively. His organs were in crisis. His vision blurred. His legs locked. He collapsed. But instead of calling for help, he crawled, on hands and knees, blood in his socks, bones grinding against each other, screaming at himself to keep going. And people ask, why? Because in that moment, Goggins wasn't running for a finish line. He was running for every kid who was told they'd never amount to anything, for every soul crushed under abuse, for the man who looked in the mirror and hated what he saw. He was proving to himself and the world that no one gets to decide your worth. Not your past, not your parents, not your failures. You do, but you've got to earn it. Every damn day. The thing is, he wasn't chasing victory. He was chasing discomfort. He knew that the person you're meant to be doesn't exist inside your comfort zone. It's forged in fire, in suffering, in the echoes of your own doubt. So he started building what he called the accountability mirror. Each morning, he'd stand in front of it, shirt off, no distractions. He'd stare into his own eyes and speak truth. Not affirmations, not fake motivation, just truth. You're fat. Fix it. You're weak. Get strong. You're lazy. Get up. No sugarcoating. No filters. Because nothing changes until you confront who you really are. And most people spend their whole lives running from that moment. But not Goggins. He ran into it. And here's the part that breaks most people: he never arrived. There was no final transformation. No moment where he said, "I've made it." Because every day, the demons came back. Memories of abuse, of shame, of failure. They whispered, "You'll never be good enough. You'll always be that scared little boy." So he ran harder, trained longer, pushed deeper. Not because he hated himself, but because he was building someone new, brick by bloody brick. And in doing so, he realized something terrifying. Most people never meet the real version of themselves. They die as strangers to their own potential, never pushed, never tested, never broken open. Because that's what it takes to become undeniable. You've got to be willing to be broken, utterly shattered, and then rise. Not once, but over and over and over. That's what separates the elite from the average. Not talent, not genetics, but the willingness to suffer without applause, to do the work when no one's watching, to keep going when no one believes in you, not even you. David didn't train for races. He trained for life, for battle, for that moment when everything falls apart and the weak give in. That's when Goggins shows up, covered in sweat, eyes wild, smiling, because that's his playground, pain. And while the world sleeps, he runs. While others hit snooze, he lifts. While most chase comfort, he chases clarity. Not in books, not in podcasts, but in suffering, in silence, in solitude. And that's what made him unstoppable. Not because he's superhuman, but because he embraced being painfully, beautifully human. Flawed, afraid, but never, ever broken. Because every time life tried to break him, he looked it in the face and said, "You can't hurt me." Part 4. There's a moment, somewhere around mile 70 in one of his races, when his body completely betrays him. It's not just fatigue, it's rebellion. His muscles lock, his vision tunnels, his bladder gives out. Blood, urine, blisters the size of fists. And still, he moves forward. But not because he's winning. He's not. He's breaking. And in that breaking, he finds truth. You see, most people live their entire lives avoiding this moment. The edge. The cliff where the body screams stop and the mind starts whispering, why bother? But Goggins, he walks up to that cliff, looks down, and jumps. Not to fall, to fly. Because only there, in the fire, does he meet the man he's building. He doesn't seek praise, doesn't need cheers, doesn't care who's watching. Because greatness isn't built in stadiums. It's built in shadows. Alone, bleeding, with no one to wipe your tears when it hurts too much to breathe. And even when the finish line came, he didn't celebrate. Because he wasn't chasing the race. He was chasing the man who refused to quit. But pain has layers. It isn't just physical. There's a pain in knowing you were supposed to be more. That you settled. That you let fear guide you and courage sat quietly inside, waiting. He talks about taking souls. It's not about hurting people. It's about turning the tables. When everyone else is broken, exhausted, defeated, you smile. You go harder. You do what they won't. Because nothing breaks the enemy faster than realizing you're not human in their eyes. You're a storm, a force, a reminder of what's possible when limits don't apply. During Navy SEAL training, when the cold water turned men into statues, when the instructors shouted and boots slammed against sand, he didn't just survive. He performed. On broken legs, taped up like a dying animal. And still, he carried boats on his head. But that wasn't the victory. The victory was how his mind responded. Every whisper of quit was met with a louder scream of try me. And when others rang the bell to quit, he listened, not with judgment, but with fire. Because every time someone gave up, it fueled him, not out of pride, out of proof. Proof that when life pushes, you don't step back. You dig in and push harder. But the world will try to sedate your pain. Distractions, comfort, excuses. They'll say you don't need to go that hard, that you deserve rest, that you've done enough. He rejected all of it because once you've seen what you're capable of, once you've walked through hell and came out with the flames still clinging to your skin, you don't go back. You don't settle. You don't rest. He built a new version of himself not once, but over and over again. Because the mind, it forgets. And fear? It always finds new ways to sneak in. So you train, every day, not for strength, but for war. And the enemy? It's not the course. It's not the weight. It's not the cold, the miles, or the pain. It's you. It's always been you. The weak you, the tired you, the excuse-making, shortcut-loving, comfort-craving you. And to beat that version, you have to become someone you've never met. Someone willing to stare into the mirror and say, I'm not done yet. Even when it hurts. Even when it bleeds. Even when the entire world says stop. You say, again. Because that's where greatness lives. Not at the top, but in the dirt, in the blood, in the failure, in the relentless pursuit of one more step. Part 5. Pain became his compass. Suffering, his teacher. Every hardship wasn't a setback. It was a lesson carved into his bones. He realized something most never grasp, that comfort is the enemy of growth. To evolve, you must seek the hard road. The road that beats you down, then builds you up stronger than before. In the military, every mission was a test, not just of skill, but of mind. When teammates quit, when the cold crept into their bones, when fear whispered to give up, David stood taller. He led not because he wanted glory, but because he understood the battlefield was inside each soldier's head. The same battlefield lives inside you. And the mission? To conquer yourself. He teaches that pain isn't something to run from, it's the fuel that powers transformation. That when you welcome discomfort, you train your brain to tolerate the unbearable. That's how you win wars no one else can see. Not with guns, but with grit. Not with power, but with persistence. Not with luck, but with unbreakable will. But this path is lonely. Few understand why you push past limits. Few watch you bleed. Few stay to see you rebuild. And loneliness cuts deep. It's another layer of pain. But David never stopped. He ran ultramarathons with fractured bones, finished SEAL training with a heart defect, and ran hundreds of miles with nothing but sheer force of mind. Each time life tried to break him, he said no. No to quitting. No to giving in. No to the lies the mind told him about his limits. He created a mental callus, a shield forged in relentless suffering. And now, he's not just unbreakable. He's unstoppable. His message is clear. Your limitations? They're all in your head. You're only using a fraction of your power. The rest? It's waiting buried beneath your excuses and fears. If you want to find it, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to face pain head-on. You have to embrace the struggle and invite it in. Because that's where real growth lives. In the fire, in the fight, in the suffering. So what will you choose? Comfort and complacency? Or pain and progress? David Goggins made his choice. And it changed everything. Part 6. There was no magic pill, no secret shortcut, just endless days of facing the brutal truth. The man in the mirror was his fiercest opponent. And the mirror never lied. It reflected his failures, his fears, his pain. But it also held a choice: keep running from yourself or stand firm and fight. Most choose to run. They hide behind distractions, excuses, the comfort of numbness. But Goggins? He stepped forward. Because he knew something few do. The moment you embrace your weakness, you gain power over it. He called it the cookie jar, a mental vault of every obstacle he overcame, every challenge he crushed. Whenever doubt threatened to swallow him whole, he reached inside, pulled out a victory, a reminder that he'd been through hell and come out stronger. But it wasn't about glory. It was about survival, about proving to himself that pain was temporary, but quitting was forever. There's a lesson here for all of us. The mind is a battlefield, and every thought is a soldier. You decide who leads the charge. Will it be fear or courage? Will it be doubt or relentless faith in your own strength? Goggins chose courage, even when his body screamed stop, even when his past whispered he'd never be enough. He chose to rewrite the story. Because your past doesn't define you. Your present choices do. And sometimes, the hardest battle you'll ever face is the war within your own mind. But that battle is worth fighting. Because on the other side lies freedom. Freedom from limits. Freedom from fear. Freedom from the prison of your own excuses. David Goggins didn't just survive his life's pain, he weaponized it. Turned it into fuel, into power, into unstoppable drive. And that's what makes his story more than just inspiring, it's a blueprint. A call to action. A reminder that the only thing standing between you and your potential is the story you tell yourself. So, what will your story be? Part 7. No one else could understand what he was doing. They saw the pain, the bruises, the exhaustion, but they didn't see the war inside his mind. Because real strength isn't visible. It's forged in silence, in the moments no one watches, when your body screams quit and your mind whispers keep going. During Navy SEAL Hell Week, a grueling test designed to break the toughest, Goggins didn't just survive. He thrived. When others hit their limits, he found new ones. When the cold numbed his hands, he ignored the pain. When sleep deprivation turned his brain to mush, he pushed harder. Because the mind can only take so much until it's forced to grow. He developed an unshakable mindset built on the refusal to accept defeat. A mindset where quitting wasn't an option, but a betrayal. This wasn't about toughness for show. It was survival. It was proving to himself and to the world that human limits are often just stories we tell ourselves. But there's a catch. This kind of mental toughness doesn't come overnight. It's not gifted. It's earned. Through hardship. Through relentless effort. Through choosing pain over comfort day after day after day. Goggins teaches us that when you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, you unlock a version of yourself you never knew existed. The one who can endure pain. The one who can overcome fear. The one who refuses to quit. And that version? It's waiting inside all of us. All we have to do is fight to find it. Part 8. Failure was never the end for Goggins. It was the beginning. Every time he fell, he got up not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He rewired his mind to see failure not as a defeat, but as data, as feedback, as a necessary step on the path to greatness. He learned to lean into failure, to find the lesson hidden in the pain and disappointment. There's a story he shares about failing SEAL training. Not once, but multiple times. Most would have quit. Most would have accepted defeat. Not him. Each failure stoked a fire inside him. A relentless hunger to come back stronger, to erase the no and replace it with a hell yes. He created rituals to battle the doubt that followed every setback, like waking up at 4 a.m. to run before dawn, even when his body screamed to stay in bed. Or pushing through workouts no one else would do. Because he knew the mind plays tricks. It tells you you're tired, weak, done. But the truth? You're only at about 40% of your potential. That's the rule he made famous, the 40% rule. When you think you're done, you're only 40% done. It's a call to push beyond what you think are your limits, to silence the voice inside that says quit. But the journey wasn't just about physical endurance. It was about mastering the chaos inside his mind. Because life will throw everything at you: pain, fear, trauma, doubt. And your response, the battle you fight every day, is what shapes your destiny. David Goggins chose to respond with courage, with discipline, with grit. And that choice can be yours too. Part 9. The ultra-endurance races weren't just physical challenges, they were mental wars waged mile after grueling mile. Imagine running 100 miles through heat, cold, pain, and sheer exhaustion while your mind screams at you to stop. Every step felt like dragging a mountain. Every breath burned. Every muscle threatened to give out. But Goggins learned to fight the mental battles differently. He broke the race into tiny battles, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one moment at a time. He called it taking souls, not in a literal sense, but in the way pushing past others' limits would crush their spirit while fueling his own. When others faltered, he pressed harder. When pain tried to take hold, he welcomed it. Because pain was proof he was alive, proof he was growing. He used visualization techniques, picturing himself crossing finish lines, overcoming obstacles, and standing tall when others had fallen. He repeated mantras to silence doubt. He used the accountability mirror to face hard truths every day. But above all, he learned the power of choice. No matter what the body does, the mind always has a choice. To quit or to push. And Goggins? He chose to push. Time and time again. Because every time he did, he redefined what was possible not just for himself, but for everyone watching. His story is a call to arms for anyone who's ever felt weak, defeated, or broken. You are stronger than you think. You are capable of more than you know. The only question is, will you fight for it? Part 10. Before all the races, the training, the Navy SEALs, there was a boy who felt broken. A childhood marked by abuse, neglect, and doubt. Memories that haunted him. A past that tried to define him as weak, powerless, and lost. But Goggins refused to carry that burden forever. He made a choice to take control of his narrative, to reclaim his power from the pain. He didn't erase his past, he used it as fuel, as motivation, as a reminder of how far he could rise. Every scar, every wound, every memory of pain he turned into bricks. Bricks that built an unshakable foundation. He knew healing wouldn't come from ignoring his past, but from facing it head-on. That's why he practiced brutal honesty with himself, the same honesty that drove him to confront his weaknesses, his fears, his failures. And from that honesty came growth, discipline, strength. He rebuilt not just his body, but his mind. And in that rebuilding, he found freedom. Freedom from the victim's story. Freedom from fear. Freedom from limits. His journey teaches us that no matter how broken you feel, how lost you are, you can rebuild. You can rise. And it starts with one decision: to stop running from your pain and start running toward your potential. Part 11. Mental toughness wasn't something Goggins was born with. It was something he built, brick by brick, through relentless discipline and practice. He developed a mindset that treated pain and hardship like weights in a gym. The more you carry, the stronger you become. One of his most powerful tools was what he called the accountability mirror. Every day, he looked himself in the eye and faced the brutal truth: no excuses, no sugarcoating. He'd write notes on sticky papers, reminders of goals, failures, and commitments, then slap them on his mirror as constant challenges. This wasn't about self-criticism to break himself down. It was about building himself up from the truth. Another secret weapon was his refusal to settle for comfort. He sought out the hardest challenges, freezing cold runs, endless push-ups, ultramarathons, because every time he got comfortable, he felt himself slipping. He knew growth lived outside the comfort zone, and he made discomfort his home. Visualization played a huge role too. Before every race or brutal training session, he pictured himself succeeding, crossing the finish line, conquering pain. This mental rehearsal hardened his resolve. But perhaps most importantly, he mastered the art of callousing the mind. Just like your hands develop calluses to handle rough work, your mind can build resistance to pain, fear, and doubt. By repeatedly exposing himself to mental and physical discomfort, he created a shield no hardship could penetrate. This mindset didn't just help him survive extreme challenges, it helped him thrive in life's everyday battles. Because every hardship became an opportunity, every setback a setup for a comeback. And that's the heart of Goggins' message: the only limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. Part 12. Leadership, for Goggins, wasn't about giving orders or seeking praise. It was about setting the example, showing others what's possible when you refuse to quit. He understood that true leaders don't just talk about toughness, they live it. In the grueling world of Navy SEAL training and ultra-endurance races, he became a beacon for those around him. When teammates doubted themselves, he pushed harder, not to show superiority, but to inspire resilience. He believed pain was a shared language, one that bonded people stronger than words ever could. But the greatest lesson he shared was this: leadership begins with leading yourself. If you can't hold yourself accountable, if you can't face your own weaknesses and keep going, you can't inspire others to do the same. His message to those who followed was clear: stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for motivation. Start with discipline. Because discipline carries you when motivation fades. It's the steady engine that drives progress through the hardest times. He challenged people to look inward, to confront their excuses, their fears, their limits, and to push beyond them. The path he carved wasn't easy. It was lonely. It demanded sacrifice. But it forged warriors not just of the body, but of the mind and spirit. And that's the legacy Goggins offers, the call to rise above pain, to take control of your story, and to lead yourself to a life without limits. Part 13. Focus wasn't accidental. It was a muscle he trained every single day. When distractions pulled at him, when his body begged for rest, he learned to lock in. One of his go-to exercises was to embrace the suck, to welcome the pain, the discomfort, the mental chaos, instead of running from it. He called it living in the suck. Because the moment you stop fighting the pain and start using it as fuel, your mind sharpens, your focus deepens, and you become unstoppable. Another powerful tool was mental journaling. He'd write down his thoughts, fears, and failures, not to dwell on them, but to confront and control them. By putting his inner battles on paper, he could analyze them, understand them, and dismantle their power over him. He also practiced visualization and positive self-talk, repeating phrases like "I am in control," "I will not quit," and "pain is temporary, pride is forever." These mantras became his shield against doubt. And when faced with overwhelming challenges, he broke them into smaller parts, not trying to conquer the mountain all at once, but one step at a time, one breath at a time, one heartbeat at a time. This approach kept him grounded, focused, and moving forward no matter what. It's a strategy anyone can use, whether training for an ultramarathon or facing everyday struggles. Because resilience isn't about never breaking. It's about how you rebuild after you do. David Goggins rebuilt himself, again and again, into a symbol of relentless mental strength. And you can too. Part 14. There was a time when doctors told him his heart condition would hold him back. Most people would have accepted that as a final verdict. But not Goggins. He refused to let a diagnosis define his limits. He pushed through intense cardiac stress tests, proving his heart was stronger than anyone expected. In another moment of brutal honesty, he shared how he ran 100-mile races with a fractured foot, pushing through pain that would have stopped most in their tracks. Pain didn't break him. It became his ally. And his body? A battlefield where he tested the limits of human endurance. In Navy SEAL training, he faced Hell Week not once, but 3 times, each time pushing himself beyond physical collapse. The instructors called him unreal, a man who defied logic and expectations. But his secret was simple. When the mind says stop, he learned to say not today. When his body wanted to quit, he reminded himself of the cookie jar, a mental vault of every victory, every moment he overcame pain, fear, and doubt. He pulled strength from those memories like a lifeline. His story is packed with moments where most would break, but he chose to build. This unbreakable mindset wasn't luck. It was forged in fire, in a relentless commitment to master the mind, to push past pain, and to never accept average. And that's the lesson for all of us. No matter your past, no matter your pain, you have the power to rise, to transform, and to become unstoppable. Part 15. David Goggins' story isn't just about pushing physical limits. It's about mastering the most powerful muscle you have, your mind. His journey teaches us that pain and hardship are inevitable, but suffering is optional. You get to choose how you respond. The accountability mirror reminds us to face our truths, own our weaknesses, and commit to relentless self-improvement. The 40% rule challenges the belief that we know our limits, showing us we're capable of so much more than we think. Embracing the suck means choosing discomfort over comfort, knowing that growth happens outside the safe zone. Visualization and mantras help build unshakable focus and resilience. And perhaps most importantly, Goggins teaches that the story you tell yourself shapes your reality. You don't have to be a Navy SEAL or an ultra-endurance athlete to apply these lessons. They are universal. They are about refusing to quit, about building mental calluses, about taking control of your life's narrative. Your potential is limitless, but it demands hard work, discipline, and courage. So the question remains, will you stay stuck in excuses, or will you push forward, break your own barriers, and unlock the greatness inside you? Because if there's one thing Goggins proves, it's this: you can't hurt a mind that refuses to be broken. And that mind? It starts with you. Part 16. To sum it up, David Goggins' life shows us that true strength isn't about being fearless or perfect. It's about facing your fears head-on, embracing pain, and choosing to keep moving forward no matter what. He teaches us that limits are often illusions, and our greatest battles are fought within. The path to greatness is paved with discipline, honesty, and relentless effort. So ask yourself, what story will you write? Will you be the one who quits? Or the one who conquers? Remember, the only thing standing between you and your true potential is the decision to never give up. Stay hard, stay focused, and keep pushing. Because greatness doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who fight for it. If you take just one thing from David Goggins' story, let it be this: your mind is your greatest weapon. No matter where you are in life, no matter what challenges you face, you have the power to rewrite your story. Can't Hurt Me isn't just a book, it's a wake-up call, a blueprint to unlock your true potential. If you're ready to transform your mindset and push beyond every limit, this book is a must-read. Don't just watch from the sidelines, take action. And if you want more powerful book reviews and motivation to fuel your journey, subscribe to my channel BookLeesh. Together, let's unlock the power within and become unstoppable. Stay strong, stay focused, and keep growing.